Hello, I'm Czardus, and today I wanted to do a quick video where I just walk through all of the mods that I have in use today as of 2023. So yeah, let's just go through the list really quick. So I actually have 80 mods enabled for my what I'm calling my St. Clair collection, which I have been using since my St. Clair City, my series. But I'm using them in Brookbury, and I've used them now in Atlantic Shores, and it's really just what and in Wakashan Bay too. So these are the mods that I really like to use. Stick around to hear what they are. We have 81 Tiles 2, which is the one by Algernon, and that unlocks or allows me to unlock all 81 game tiles. Adaptive Networks 3.17, that one allows me to just kind of modify some networks and things like that. Advanced Building Level Control 1.2.4, that allows me to control what level buildings are by district. And so if I want to limit them to level 1, I can do that. If I want to change the level individually or by the district, that is what I'm using for that. Advanced Stop Selection Revisited, that allows you to choose which platform trains stop at when you're creating a train line. And I really like to have that because then you can have sometimes when you're building on a train or a train line, it just chooses whichever track is the one that is convenient for it to turn around. But what you get to do here is you get to choose exactly which line goes where. Advanced Vehicle Options 1.9.10, that just allows you to modify exactly which vehicles are showing up in your city. So if you have custom vehicles like I do, then you can choose which ones are spawning and which ones are appearing and stuff like that. Bob is the tree and prop replacer. I use that to remove trees and props from buildings and to replace them and have the ones that I want in the building itself. Building Spawn Points 1.3.2, I don't really use that a lot, but it does allow you to change where things spawn on a building. And I use that just to tweak things every once in a while. I have a building that I want to change where things are coming out of. Usually I do that with train stations and things like that. Camera Positions Utility, that just saves the camera position where it is. And more important to me is it disables the collision so that I can zoom in and not worry about having the a building clipping out of the way and stuff like sometimes if you're doing a cinematic camera, it can go through and then the terrain will make the camera bounce because the game doesn't want you to go through the terrain, but disabling the collision allows you to do that. Campus Parts allows you to place parts on pedestrian paths in campuses, airports, and industry zones. And that just gives you more flexibility with parts a little bit. Cinematic Camera Extended, that's how I get some good cinematic camera options. I don't know how to explain it other than that for now, but then Clouds and Fog Toggler, that allows me to get rid of the clouds and fog that are on the edges of the map or when you zoom out. I am so excited to partner with Apex Gaming PCs to bring you a custom line of gaming PCs named after some of my most popular series. I've worked with their team to put together an amazing setup for playing games like City Skylines. There's a link to see the full line in both the description below and the pinned comment. Oh, and be sure to use the discount code Czardus to receive up to $250 off your purchase. Compatibility Report. This one is really useful for making sure that all of your mods are working together. Chameleon does an outstanding job of maintaining the list and having that mod be up to date for any known mod issues. CSL Map View, that allows me to export a map view of the city as a whole, and it creates it into a JPEG version that I can look at elsewhere. I think it's JPEG. It might be PNG. I'm not sure. But a curb height adjuster, that just changes the height of the default road curbs to make them look a little bit more realistic. Customize it extended. That allows you to customize the details for every building and stuff like that. So like if you want to change, what I've done a lot of is with schools, I've changed the radius that they apply to so that the benefit of the school is felt farther away. I do that too for the libraries, I think, and that is really useful. Daylight Classic, that just changes the lighting a little bit, and that's a really good one. District Styles Plus. This is the new, so this is new. It used to be, there was a building theme manager mod, I think it was called, and the modder who created that hasn't been active in the community for a while, and so somebody else has picked it up and redone it as District Styles Plus and made a few changes to it, and it is how I manage what is in each district style. Extended managers, that is a background thing that allows or that helps other things work. Extra landscaping tools, that is a key mod that allows you to have all of the map editor landscaping in your game, so you can do a lot more details with your landscaping and just things like that. Extra train station traps, that just allows you to have more types of train station traps. I think that's more of a background thing. I don't use that in game very much, but I do have it enabled because I think there are some assets that require it. Find It 2.9.3. This is how I look for specific assets or buildings and things like that. I'm sure if you've watched my videos, you've seen me use that often. First Person Camera 2.1. That is just the one that I use if I want to, it says here, view your city from a different perspective. That is exactly what I use it for. Fish warehousing. This is a great mod. It allows you to have fish storing in the warehouses. And that way, when you are taking in your fish from your fishing piers from the Sunset Harbor DLC, they can go into the industry's warehouses, and it allows you to get more trucks going out into your infrastructure. Forest Brush Revisited, that allows you to have a whole bunch of brushes for your different tree mixes, and that's how I get the variety in my trees. FPS Booster, that just increases the in-game frame rate. Gravitative Cable Car. I got this one for the ski resort that I made in Wakashan Bay, and it just makes the cable cars run a little bit differently than they do in the unmodded game. Harmony 2.2, that is a key mod for background stuff. A lot of mods depend on this one, so it is important that if you have a mod that says it needs harmony, that you have this mod. Instant return to desktop. This is a key one for when you are quitting the game. If you go to exit the game, this mod makes you immediately execute terminate the game so that nothing continues to run. Because normally if you exit the game with your regular exit thing without this mod, it causes some issues with other mods that you might have running. But when you have this, it just kills the game immediately when you hit that exit button, and it helps with the just background functioning of all of your mods. Intersection marking tool, that is a key one for just making intersections look more realistic, and I use that a lot. Lifecycle Rebalance Revisited, that just kind of balances out the life cycles. I don't know how to explain that. I mean, it reduces the death waves, and it creates a wider range in citizen life. I think the base game, a citizen lives for 4 years, and that's it. They always live for 4 years, but this mod makes it more random. Loading Screen Mod Revisited, that improves the gaming load process, and that just speeds up the loading. It makes it cleaner, and it gives you details of where you're at in the loading process as well. Measure It. That I use to measure different things in the game. I really like to use that for airports. I think that's the thing I use it most for, is to measure the length of runways and stuff like that. More network stuff that just adds the ability to do more stuff with networks. Primarily, I use that for editing ship paths. So like if you have a ship path in your harbor and you want to change the way the ships go, this is the mod you want to use. More vehicles, that just increases the number of allowed spawned vehicles. Move It does a whole bunch of stuff, and I think most people know what Move It is. It really allows you to move things. Network Anarchy 3.2, that allows you to really, this is the newer version of Road Anarchy, or I think it was called Fine Road Anarchy, or Fine Road Tools. They come into Network Anarchy, or Key Anarchy as well, and that just gives you a whole bunch of options for doing stuff with your roads and networks. Network Extensions 2, that is just a additional set of roads and things that most people don't need to use it anymore. I keep it enabled just because I want to be able to load up saves that may have a road in there without really having to worry about what map has roads from here or not. Network Multitool, that just gives you a whole bunch of different things for working with different roads and networks and stuff like that. I use that primarily for sloping things. That's my favorite feature from Network Multitool. Or I also use it for adding or removing nodes. So that is another key thing. I think some people use it for doing parallel roads too. And I've done that from time to time, but not usually. It's not one of my main functions that I use it for. Network Skins. That can just change the visual appearance of roads and things. I do that, or I use that when I want to remove, say, a street light or a catenary or something like that. No Big Truck. That just makes it so that anything that you have gone in to, I think in advanced vehicle options, and you've labeled something as a big truck, then it won't be used to deliver goods to stores, so that you don't have a whole bunch of giant semi-trucks going to your downtown core trying to deliver things to a tiny retail store. Node Controller Renewal 3.3.3.3. I think I got the right number of threes there, but anyway, Node Controller allows you to change your nodes around and just kind of redesign them a little bit and make changes like that. Optimize the outside connections. This one makes, so without this, you can get trains that have like 10% full. And so you can get a ton of trains coming into your city without very much on them. And it takes up a whole bunch of space and creates traffic. Optimized outside connections changes that so that you can say how often a train will come or how full it needs to be before it will spawn. Outside Traffic Balancer, that measures the size of a road and changes the number of vehicles that are coming on that road based on the size of it. Parkify allows you to use all of your park buildings in your park areas from the Park Life DLC. So any park can be used in those. Parking lot snapping, that allows parking lots to, like when you're doing what is it called, the parking lot roads, that is the asset that you might use. And parking lot snapping makes it so that when you're adding the lines to the parking lot, they snap right into place. Patch Loader mod, that's another background mod that is required for a few other things. Primarily, I think the FPS Booster requires the patch loader. Ploppable Asphalt Plus. That allows you to use different things to just have ploppable asphalt that you can raise or lower. So if you want to have a raised level of grass behind a pretend retaining wall, you can do that with this. It's more of a detailing thing. Precision Engineering. I actually don't use this too much, but there are some tools that it can be useful for. Like sometimes I use, I think, Alt, or I use one of these buttons, Control, Shift, or Alt. I kind of play with them to see what which one I'm trying to grab, but it extends it extends a line from a node when you're trying to connect two roads so that you can see where things connect. Prefab Hook, that's another background mod that is required by others. Procedural objects, that is really, it says Extreme Objects Customization Tool. I use it sparingly. Some people use it for customizing like road signs and things like that. I use it for shrinking an object, or it's really, I use it a lot in my Chicago series, or I have used it more there than anywhere else, to get buildings that are very customized, because you can change how they look in the game. The downside to it is that once you convert a building to a procedural object, it is no longer functional. It is only decorative. So you need other things, like I have some assets that are just block services and things like that, that is just like a little block that is a police station building that you can hide in your procedural object building that you've made. Prop Anarchy, that is a new one that it makes it so that you can do a whole bunch of anarchy things with props. You can place them all kinds of places. Instead of, without any mods, props can only be placed outside of a building, or like where they're not going to conflict with anything. Realistic population, that creates a more realistic population need for each building. So like a 10-story apartment building will have more than 2 households in it and stuff like that. Realistic walking speed, that just changes the speed at which people are walking so that it is a little bit more realistic. Rebalanced Industries, that changes the number of jobs or things that industries DLCs need. This mod is very similar to the realistic population mod. They work really well together. RICO Revisited, that allows you to change a building from residential to industrial, or whatever you want to change it to. You can change the buildings, and it also allows you to turn unique buildings into those types of buildings, like a residential, industrial, commercial, or office. You can, that's what RICO is, by the way. You could change those to a RICO building. Remove crossings. RM crossings 3.3. This makes it so that you can hide crosswalks from a road. So if you remove them with TMPE, Traffic Manager President's Edition, which we'll talk about in a little bit, or network skins, then it will hide them altogether. RM Unconnected Tracks, it does the same thing. If you have, say, 2 roads that have a different number of tram tracks on them, then it will not connect them, and it will hide the ones that don't go anywhere. RON, the network replacer, allows you to bulk replace your roads or your other networks with a different one. So you don't have to go in and find every instance of a specific road that you've used. You can use this mod to just have it do it all for you. Roundabout Builder. This one, I usually prefer to do them myself by hand, because I learned a long time ago how to build a roundabout in this game, and it comes naturally and easy. But this one does sometimes have functions that make it a little bit easier to do. Sharp Textures just increases the texture detail. Snowfall Assets Everywhere, that just allows me to use Snowfall DLC assets on maps that are not winter maps. Softer Shadows, that is another graphics one that changes the look a little bit. Sort mod settings, that means that when you go into the settings in game, it sorts the mods by alphabetical order so that it is much easier to find things. Speed Slider allows me to adjust the game speed more detail. It is really only useful for if you're doing cinematic recordings, because then you might slow down the recording speed and freeze the frame rate, and then you want to slow down the game speed to try to match that, so that when you're in the post process to edit, you speed up the game, or speed up the recording as if it was kind of like a time lapse, but you make it to be more realistic. And that is how a lot of YouTubers get really crisp cinematic camera shots with high frame rate results without actually being able to build with a 30 FPS build. Sub Buildings Enabler, that just adds a little bit of support. This one isn't really needed anymore unless you have a custom building or asset that requires it, because they've added this thing to the game itself. And so since they added it to the game, any building made with that feature already has the support, but any older buildings might need this mod. So, Surface Painter Temporary Fits. So Surface Painter allows you to paint different textures on your terrain surface, and the temporary fits, there was just the Surface Painter mod hadn't been updated yet, and so Algernon added a temporary fits until the original mod gets updated. Theme Decals, that allows you to have some decals that match your map theme textures. Theme Mixer 2 lets you load mix and customize your map themes so that you can combine different map themes. I've done that for Wakashan Bay. I have a theme mix that I use, and that is what I use for it. TMPE, that is the traffic manager. That's how you can get details of controlling which lane goes where and speed limits and stuff like that. It's a very useful mod. Toggle It allows you to just toggle different things, like I can hide all the notifications with one click. I could make the contour lines appear. You can make all the district outlines appear and stuff like that. Transfer Controller, that just allows you to control where buildings are sending their goods, or like warehouses, and if they're importing or exporting, and you can really have much more control over your industry chain of infrastructure. Tree Anarchy allows you to have a lot more options with trees. You can also have unlimited trees with this. You can snap the trees to different heights and stuff like that. UI resolution, that just changes because I am on a 4K monitor. This allows the menu to be resized. Otherwise, it gets really annoying without that mod. Ultimate Eyecandy, that is another visual one that allows me to change the lighting very quickly. Ultimate Level of Detail increases the LOD distance. The LOD is the lower quality rendering of the model. So without this, if you are zooming out, your trees might go to a lower quality. This allows you to have control over how far away you have to zoom before that will happen. Unified UI, that just combines several mods into one button so that you have one spot for a lot of different things. Unlimited oil and ore just makes it so that any oil and ore on the map do not get reduced from being used. That's an in-game mod. Vehicle Selector allows you to pick which buildings come out of any service building or anything like that. Wakashan Bay, this is the theme mix that I made with Theme Mixer 2. Yet Another Toolbar, that is what I use to modify the toolbar that I have in the game, and it just allows me to have it be a different size and a different stuff like that, so I have better menus and things like that. And that is it. Those are all of the 80 mods that I have enabled right now. The rest of them on the list are not enabled, but I hope this was useful for you and interesting. But yeah, leave a comment down below with the mods that you use, if there's one that you recommend that I have not mentioned here. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time. Take care.